Right. Thank you again, Klegas, for talking to us. Now, you've told us that you stumbled upon law. It hasn't always been your focus.
You know, I wanted to be many things, but I think I wanted to do something about society. And I think that's why I first thought I could be a priest. It's because the lives of people have always been very important to me. You know, so teaching, law, priesthood are the same thing to me, right? So I didn't want to be a lawyer because I'm this cutthroat lawyer who believes there must be money and cases must be won. I'm attracted to justice first. And so I stumbled into law because there was a time when I just felt I need to do something that is close to what I wanted to be. And being a lawyer was one of them. And so I came to the bar I did pupillage in 2002. And from then on, I have not looked back. I've been here, all controversies, all cases, I've been here since then. And I didn't think I would stay this long.
What keeps you here? What keeps you in the law? I know you said justice, but is that all?
Well, let me be honest. This is the first job through which I've been able to be financially independent. It's the only job in my life where I've been able to take care of my kids and my family and sisters and people that I know because it pays. Let's be honest. So I commend this job that it gave me that financial independence. But life is just not about that. I do it also because I do love to defend human beings, whether I like them or I don't like them. I just have a particular belief that because I'm not infallible as a human being, I therefore assist clients and people without judging them. Not that I don't know they may be wrong. I just believe I'm so infallible myself as a human being that I do not judge too much people who have done wrong but need my help. And I think that keeps me, because assisting someone, no matter how much they've been condemned, no matter how much others condemn them, is something that I like doing. And I think that's what doctors do. I think we go to them sick, and sometimes we're sick because we've been promiscuous, but we want a doctor who will treat us nevertheless. And that's how I see law. I don't see it as a popularity contest for me to represent people who are loved. I've never seen it that way.
Yes. Now, on that note, you have been associated with the former president, Jacob Zuma. Not so much for your being his lawyer, but people seem to blur the lines between legal representation and fighting your client's cause. What do you say to people who think like that?
It's absolute race.
It's absolute?
It's race.
Race.
It's about race. It's because I'm black. And I'm not being facetious when I say that. When I was in the Island Group as a new advocate, I watched white lawyers sitting with Michael Halley, who represented Zuma, for 10 years of my life. Not a black advocate. White advocates represented Zuma during his tenure as president, not me. If there's one, maybe, but I acted against him. They were never associated with his cause. Not once. Not once that people said Kemp is a Zuma man after 15 years of being his lawyer. It's because inherent in this accusation, for a man I've only represented for 2 years when he no longer has power, it's because I'm black. And because we are black, we're incapable of being distant from what we're doing. We are not professional, we are not clever. Hiding in that accusation by black and white people is an admission that there is a belief that professionals who are black are inferior, are so incapable of being independent, that I can't represent someone unless I'm docile. I believe I fight his cause. No, I'm in court and I fight like Gauntlet represented Zuma in the Nkandla matter. I think many other white colleagues, you know them.
Yes.
They are never associated with him, and I've never gone to his rallies. So there's no justification for it, except that hidden in it is a particular attitude towards black people and their inability to be professional. Otherwise, tens of white lawyers in this profession made millions when President Zuma was president.
Yes.
I'm representing him when he can't even afford to pay me, and I'm the one who takes the flag. And so I think it's
so it's, sorry to interrupt. So you're saying it's a race issue, because I almost venture to you that perhaps it's a misunderstanding by people who are not involved in law of what's called the cap rank rule. But you've just addressed that by saying, well, there were white counsel who were representing him who were not painted in the same opprobrium as you are, or as black counsel is. I mean, I was also painted with some kind of brush when I represented the judge president in the Western Cape. I didn't know where that came from.
What's common between you and me? We're both black, and the assumption is that the two of us are so inferior intellectually. We are unable to be independent. Yeah. Right? The cap rank rule, I used to think, yes, there's a large number of people that do not understand that. But
I think, sorry to interrupt you, for the benefit of those followers of Anchored in Law website to understand what the cap rank rule, can we just get that out of the way and explain to people so that they can't now claim not to understand why Muzi Sikhakhane is representing Jacob Zuma?
You know, our independence as advocates is that everyone who walks through that door, my chambers, must be able to get assistance from me, regardless of his or her political views or mine, right? And that is why the profession of advocates is independent from attorneys. It's because we try not to develop a relationship with a client or a judgment. Because if we did that, some of the people in Galwana who criticize me for representing somebody else, the first time I met them, they were in trouble. But somehow when I've represented them, they believe that I can't represent somebody else who's in trouble because they don't like them. So part of it is that people don't understand that the cap rank rule is to ensure that there is no human being, because of their political views or other things, that cannot be assisted to get justice. Even the people who criticize us in Galwana, all of them, if their child was accused of rape the following day, or they were accused of rape, they would phone you. They just don't understand this deliberately because they get overwhelmed with their own political preferences. I don't think they don't understand it. I think it's a level of complex dishonesty in a human being, because the following day when they need a lawyer, they phone a lawyer. Yes. And they don't want to be charged when they phone a lawyer. So I think it's important for people to understand that. But I raise the issue of race because I see that while I'm representing Zuma, a white lawyer is representing a priest who's accused of raping so many girls. Is he charged? No. Yes. And so people do understand this, but somehow I think they get overwhelmed by their own political preferences because of the emotions in politics, and they believe that I can't help someone they don't support. Yes, and biases, and there's a lot of that in South Africa these days. I think so. Now, there's lack of independent thought, and I think it has to do with our education system, by the way. I think critical thinking is not encouraged. Do you think there should be if you like, a course called critical thinking introduced in
what do you call it, primary education?
I think so. I think people follow what I call a herd mentality, an echo chamber. And there's very, very little thinking. How many times do people make assumptions, and when you probe, they realize they are wrong? And so I think the majority of people follow narratives or grand narratives that are repeated in the public media. And because human beings don't want to be outcasts, what they do is to adopt what makes them get accepted by the dominant discourse. Because they're human beings, they want to be accepted. And so in a way, a lot of people believe and say things that they've not thought about.
That reminds me of a course that's on offer. It's a project set up by a fellow, his name is Isaac Shongwe. It's called Ali, Africa Leadership Initiative, which runs over 18 months. And you get 20 people from various walks of life. We've got lawyers, doctors, NGO people, artists, and so on, sitting around, accountants, and so on. And so you get people sitting around the table, 20 of us, who get given scripts from Confucius to Thomas Hobbes to Karl Marx, and you do economics and all kinds of things to read up, and then you meet up to debate those issues and other readings that you may have done, coming up with your own views of how the world can be made a better place. And I learned from that, you know, that you can't really teach critical thinking, but you can coax people along to discover their own ability to think critically. So I think from what you were saying about the lack of critical thinking out there in the country, we may need an intervention like that. Maybe Pabasa could venture into that terrain to train lawyers and non-lawyers, critical thinking, for a fee, of course.
No, absolutely. I think it would help society in general, because this herd mentality in society is worrying, that people like and dislike things without knowing why. Even intellectuals, so-called intellectuals, they will tell you they don't like Ngalwana, and they differ with Ngalwana. Ngalwana must be lynched. They actually don't know why. It's because the circles they are in don't like Ngalwana. And that is a product not just of bias, because we all have biases. It's a product of our inability to think critically and originally, at least. The other thing, everybody has a bias. And when I say to people, we need people who are independent, particularly in the legal field, they think I'm saying, no, people are always biased. See, what is required from a lawyer and a judge is not that you are not biased. We know you are. We know you have a worldview. It's the honesty to confront it. The honesty to confront it and say, this entire case I am judging, I have strong views and I'm unable to think independently of those strong views, and I want a particular outcome. Therefore, I'm not the right judge or I'm not the right lawyer. And for me, that is what we need for lawyers, for society, for journalists and everyone, but particularly for lawyers, because they move into the terrain of judges that requires the highest degree of independent thought, fairness, justice, and impartiality. And only human beings that are capable of honesty, of looking at themselves, should do that job.
Yes. Now, from what you've observed, I mean, I don't want to get you into serious trouble, just a little bit of trouble. From what you've observed in the various judgments in the high courts in particular lately, is there something that concerns you about the nature and the reasoning in these judgments that come out when you talk about the independence and integrity of the judiciary?
Yeah, I don't think it troubles me little. I think it has made me believe that I hope I would never have to be in charge. Partly because it's a profession that I held in high esteem. But when I see what I think is the inability to distance our judgments from our worldview, from our political preferences, it bothers me. I know that is a function of where we recruit judges. It's a function, of course, as the Chinese say, if you open windows for fresh air, flies come in. And I think in our attempts to get many people to be judges, I think we've forgotten the substance and the type of human being that must be a judge. And I've been utterly disappointed in the past 10 years in South Africa, because I think that, I'm not saying judges are corrupt, I'm not talking those extremes, but I think there is an inability, inherent inability, and I call it inability because it may not be deliberate, to distance oneself from political preferences in society. I just, let me give an example. You know, quite recently, for the first time, facing all judges with you, I've been in court many times, I gave up arguing in the one of the highest courts in South Africa when I realized we were not debating law, we were debating the judge's disgust over a particular political issue. And I realized you will go nowhere, because you are not debating law, you're debating an inherent belief that is political in nature. And I think we need to create judges and lawyers that are so independent, not that they won't be biased, but that they will work hard to confront it, because justice is compromised when people who are unable to honestly say, I am not the right person. If you brought a matter before me that involved someone I dislike politically and I want a particular outcome, I would tell you, please recuse me. I can't deal with this matter. I think I want a particular outcome. And I think we need that level of integrity. I would never be a judge, because I believe that profession requires very, very few rare human beings who are honest. And I don't think we have them in abundance all over the world, in our judiciaries all over the world, particularly here.
Particularly in South Africa.
Yeah, because we are a young democracy with a lot of controversies, and we are very emotive about certain things. And I think beneath this, I call it the democratic aesthetic, this veneer of democracy in South Africa is a battle for ideas, is a battle for survival, is a battle for careers. And I think those battles, because we're still new, those battles, I think, have an impact on things that we should be careful about, where we are called upon to be independent.
Yes, okay. We'll take up in the next segment the move to Pabasa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.